Hey guys, welcome back to Cough Country. This is Steve with your cannabis news, of course. And to get you over this hump day, we're going to start off in the land of the rising sun. And nowhere but Japan is so harsh on cannabis. And yet even they're warming up to medical cannabis at the same time as laying a smackdown on recreational. Then, if you've never heard of the blunt of blunts, a Thai stick, you're in luck because they're making a comeback and I'm going to tell you all about it. And finally, Hound Labs is coming out with the first marijuana breathalyzer that can tell recent use, but the police can't use it yet. I'm going to tell you why and more. All this right now, coming to you right now on Cough Country News.
No sticks, no seeds, just news.
From the Cough Country News Desk, it's Steve with your cannabis news.
Hold on to your sushi, folks. Japan just rocked the house, and the country that is harsher on bud than anyone else in the world just waved the green flag for cannabis-based medicines. But as they open the door to the world of medical, they're also slamming it hard on the marijuana and THC. It's like a plot twist on a Japanese game show. I'll give you something, but it's not what you think it is. So Japan hasn't always been so hardcore in cannabis. In fact, it was one of the earliest cultivated plants in the country, going back to like 10,000 BC, and they were using it for all sorts of things, like cloth, pottery, religious rituals, and the peasants were also smoking it while the rich were out there drinking their sake. Now, marijuana wasn't a big deal until the post-war U.S. occupation, where the U.S. imported its super anti-cannabis policies to the country, and 7 decades later, Japan has some of the strictest marijuana laws in the world, with up to 7 years for possession. Only 1.4% of Japanese say they've even tried cannabis, compared to almost 50% of the United States. And the government is finally warming up to the idea of a medical marijuana. There was already a pretty booming CBD scene in the country. CBD products could get around the cannabis ban as long as they had 0 THC, and they had to be made from the stems and seeds. They had to be. They couldn't touch any flower at all. And the people were just gobbling it up as the evidence of its health benefits. It's been mounting around the world. The people want their cannabis. They passed a bill that would officially legalize cannabis-based medicines, mainly derived from CBD, even though the actual plant, as well as the THC, well, they're still illegal. They're saying for the Japanese government, though, this is some pretty wild stuff. They've been campaigning against it for decades, and now, in a pivot, they're about to start hemp production again in the country after all of these years. But it's not all rainbows and unicorn farts over there, guys. The government doesn't want anybody getting too giddy, all right? At the same time they're chilling out on cannabis medicine, they are laying this smackdown on recreational use in THC. They're upping the maximum punishments and fines, which are already pretty harsh, and they're also cracking down on THC alternatives like HHC and Delta-8. So it's the same loophole that let in CBD, let in anything they can make from hemp that can still get you high. And they're not sure how to tackle it. They've been playing whack-a-mole with each one as it comes up. But the recent ban on HHC, which has gained a hefty underground following, and the little tweaks they made to the law, they're all signaling that the government is not playing this loophole game anymore, okay? Guys, we'll be right back in just a second from our sponsors. Support them, check them out, and we'll be right back with more news. Welcome back, guys. See, the commercial wasn't too bad. Now we get to talk about Thai sticks, huh? A Thai stick is like the leprechaun of blunts. It's so rare and legendary, you sit there and hope, ooh, one day I hope I find that pot of gold. A Thai stick is essentially an all-cannabis cigar, right? It's made in a special way they've been doing for, well, you know, longer than they can say how long they've been doing it for. And don't go mistaking it for a blunt. No, no, no. It's a way traditional way that indigenous tribes in northern Thailand consume their cannabis. And it didn't really become a known thing until the 60s and 70s when the soldiers from the Vietnam War started visiting Thailand on R&R, and they stumbled upon these stickiest of ickies, and they started smuggling them back to the States as fast as they could roll them. But eventually the practice died out, and as the war on drugs ramped up both in the US and Thailand, the art kind of got lost. But a few connoisseurs are reviving the tradition and bringing it into the new age, and they're finding out how much time and patience this ancient smoke really takes. You have to compress a whole bunch of cannabis around a bamboo stick, coat it in hash oil, wrap it in a hemp twine, and let it sit and condense. Then you keep repeating the process until it's a nice fat cigar shape. And at this point, they used to wrap it up in fan leaves and bury it for a month to cure. But these days, we seal it in a vacuum-sealed bag and throw it in the fridge. And after the longest wait of your life, you will have an official Thai stick and a story to tell, my friend. Folks, we're in the dawn of the age of legal cannabis, people. And like it or not, the police are going to have a hand regulating this new world. And when it comes to operating a vehicle, the breathalyzer has been the main tool to keep intoxicated people off the road. But there's nothing like that for marijuana, right? Well, hold your horses there. Whoa, this ain't the Wild West, okay? There's going to be rules. We just don't have them yet. Okay, the alcohol breathalyzer, like it or not, has kept a lot of drunk drivers off the road. But in the world of legal cannabis, how does law enforcement tell when someone is too high to drive? Traditional tests like hair or urine can only tell if you've used cannabis within the last few weeks, not whether you are high right now. So we're going to take a look into the world of marijuana breathalyzers, which promises to solve that problem. So marijuana is more legal than it's ever been, right? 38 states have passed marijuana laws, 24 of them allow it recreationally, but for now, still very illegal on the federal level. So states have had to figure it out for themselves, how they're going to regulate it, and it's been messy. It's been every man for himself out there. They're just scrambling to meet a real need. And while cannabis has been legalized in a lot of ways, THC, the main psychoactive ingredient, is still an intoxicant, like alcohol is. And like alcohol, it affects your brain chemistry and alters the decision-making process. So part of legal cannabis is making sure no one gets hurt because of cannabis use. Industries that are in charge of people's well-being have always drug tested, like construction, hospitality, and especially law enforcement, and are looking for ways to accurately test if someone is too impaired. Now, Hound Labs out of California is the first one out of the gate delivering a breathalyzer device that can actually distinguish recent use of cannabis, which is a huge step forward, trust me. There are a few other companies developing patents using different technologies, but nothing that's ready yet. But the name of the game here is detecting use within the last hour or two. So the Hound Labs breathalyzer allows employers to allow their employees the freedom to do what they want at home, but discourage cannabis use during the workday. But why aren't police scrambling to use it, right? It turns out that screening for only recent THC use is pretty hard. Tests like urine, hair, or blood all test for the presence of THC, but not the current level of it. When cannabis was illegal, that's all they needed to know. But now, if the police pull you over, they need evidence not that you use marijuana, but how much you are on right now. And the science just isn't there. Remember, alcohol breathalyzers don't tell if you're impaired. It tells the officer how much alcohol is actually in your blood. And after decades of research studying hundreds of thousands of cases, scientists decided that once the 0.08% threshold is hit, that's when we call it impaired. But there's nothing like that for cannabis. Within an hour of cannabis use, levels are really high in the breath, and then within 3 hours, it's almost gone. So within those fluctuating levels, where are you too impaired to drive? Comparatively, cannabis breathalyzer research is where the alcohol one was back in the 30s, right after Prohibition. It's so hard to study. One lab working on this spent a whole year just trying to get the permits to handle cannabis, let alone do all the tests they need to do. So while a handful of police departments are doing field tests with the new breathalyzer technology, there is years of research that needs to be done before they can ever use it in court. So we might have the technology almost ready, but the science is really still playing catch up. Guys, thank you for joining us on Cough Country News. Be sure you hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends. Bring everybody here. Everybody needs to know this stuff. And check us out next time on Cough Country News, where it's always no sticks, no seeds, just news, man. Yeah.